I was fighting for my life all May long. Somehow I managed to squeak out 13 books, but let me tell you, there were not a lot of winners. I believe we had one 5-star. I, however, finished the Mammoth of the Count of Monte Cristo. I continued with Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I read some thrillers to try and keep me alive, help me survive. We're gonna get into my May reads. As always, I rate my books on a 300-point bowling system scale. I'm gonna give you these bad boys from lowest to highest. You know, I'm really excited to talk about the favorite book of the month, even if it wasn't what I expected. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'm gonna start out kind of light. Does it count? I'm counting it. I started One Piece, the volume 1. I don't know how many volumes there are. There are a million. I'm not gonna lie. It did not live up to the expectations that I feel like I had. I rated it a 162. It just felt a little bit more juvenile than I thought it was going to be. Don't ask me what I thought it was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to give that kind of chaotic. Disclaimer, this is the first real One Piece content I've consumed outside of the little Pokemon Go partnership where they had the little One Piece hat on Pikachu. I had not read, I had not watched any of the anime or the Netflix show. So this was my first sample in. I'm not hooked, I'm not obsessed, that is all. Moving on along, Kiss, Marry, Kill. Short and sweet, 163, it was not sweet. Kiss, Marry, Kill by Lori Gold. This was supposed to be kind of a mystery thriller. Essentially, there's like a group of friends, they play Kiss, Marry, Kill, and they pick, obviously, somebody they want to kiss, marry, and kill, and then they're somehow transported to this alternate reality where the selections that they had actually happened. Mile High. I did a reading vlog with this book and it wasn't horrible. It was super cute. You know me, I'm not a huge contemporary romance fan, but I did enjoy this one. I rated it a 169. I'm not going to get into too many details because I talked about it heavily in a recent vlog, so I'll go ahead and link that there if you want to know my real-time thought. I would actually recommend this one. It was a cute time. Next, I read Voracious by Leigh Rivers. Is the second book in the Edge of Darkness series. It's a trilogy. If I'm being so honest, it took me 2 months plus to read this book. 2 months plus. There is so much hype around this series, and the way I fought through this book to finish it, I'm not going to call it hate reading, but I was definitely looking for what the hype was. I was desperate to care, and I didn't. I didn't enjoy the flashbacks. There was lots of time jumping. I think in book 2, it's just too late for you to try and get me to care about if this relationship is going to make it, or the trauma, or the hurt, or the toxicity, or the struggles that Cade has had to go through since he decided to slip down this slippery dark slope. I am really thinking about whether or not I'm going to continue. It's like there's one book, and maybe the last book makes it worth it, but I just had to fight for my life. I had to fight for my life to get through these books, and I can't find an audiobook anywhere. I think that if I had an audiobook to go with it, it might make it a little bit more palatable, but we'll see. Honestly, let me know. Let me know if this is one of your favorite series, why it's one of your favorite series, and if you think that I'm going to like the third book. Moving on, because honestly, I don't have a lot of good things to say about the books that I read this month, but I do have things to say, but I don't want to harp negatively. Next, we're keeping it pushing. We are all guilty here. I read this with a friend. This was by Karin Slaughter. I haven't talked a lot about Karin Slaughter on this channel because what I've read, this is the second book I read from her. I don't love her. I do not love Karin Slaughter. I don't love her. The first book I read was Pretty Girls, and I hate read that to the end, and I gave it a 2-star. It follows essentially the disappearance of two young girls. It's like 4th of July, it's summer. These 2 girls were plotting to like go for a joyride, and this little girl is waiting for her friend and she never shows up, and she gets snatched up and goes missing. It's about locating to see what happened to those girls. Can we find them in time? And then if we can or cannot, can we also find the culprit as well? The premise sounded so good. If I'm being just so honest, the first 275 pages, which is a theme for Miss Slaughter, 275 pages were great, but at that point the book could have been done. Let me just tell you my true gripe with Karin Slaughter. My true gripe with Karin Slaughter is that she writes young girls being unnecessarily traumatized, sexualized, and monetized. It doesn't build to the story. It's excessive abuse is what it is. It's excessive abuse that doesn't align with the character arc. It doesn't add any layers. It doesn't add any additional emotional impact except for me to just wonder, who hurts you? Why? Let me get off of this. I completely skipped a book. So caught up. We Are Guilty here came in at a 188. Like, it was a good story. I just feel like I have some beef with with Karen Slaughter and the way that she writes about abuse, sexual abuse, sexualization of young girls, and the kidnapping and death of young girls. Now, to rewind a little bit, Voracious by Leigh Rivers, the rating that I gave that was a 171. I did skip a book here. It's Not Her. It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. This is my first Mary Kubica book. The premise was this is newer. It's a thriller mystery, of course. Um, a family goes on vacation and a young girl goes missing off their front porch. I didn't hate this book. It was mid at best, and that's really where I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna say too much. It wasn't too amazing. It wasn't the best mystery thriller that I read this month, and it came in at a 172. I am still crawling with Carl, and I read The Inevitable Ruin. The Inevitable Ruin, which is book 7 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. It's sad when you have to look to see which book and what was happening but this was supposed to be Faction Wars. This was probably my most highly anticipated book to read for this series. If I'm being honest, I don't feel like it delivered for me. The books are getting a little bit wild. I think the story is getting a little bit away from him. I'm going to finish because I'm this far in, but it's no longer as captivating as it once was. You can't save everybody, Carl. I know you want to, but you just can't. It's not going to happen. This one came in at a 205, so still a solid book. The series is still a good time. This one just took me a really long time to finish. I just didn't feel compelled to continue to flip the page or listen to the audiobook, and it was kind of like there when I thought about it, and I didn't often think about it. What I did think about was my next book, and I thought this was going to be the one that was going to get me out of my slump for good, and it did really help. But this one is The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak. Jason Rekulak is the same author of Hidden Pictures, which I am absolutely obsessed with and has gotten me out of slumps before. So I was like, let me run it back and see if he can work his magic again. I think what really shocked me in his last book and got me out of my slump was that I was shocked. I couldn't see the twist coming, and the twist was twisty. This one, not so much. It follows an estranged father who reconnects with his daughter because she announces she's going to be getting married. She's not just getting married to anybody, though. She's getting married to some rich heir of like a tech mogul, I believe. So they've got money. They've got deep money, and you set the stage. The stage is she randomly announces a wedding. She invites him to like the estate because of course these are people with a lot of money, so they have a whole estate. They can house you. They've got this entire situation. So him and his sister and a foster kid travel to participate in the wedding shenanigans. Also keeping in mind you still have this strained relationship with your daughter. And you don't really know these people. They're not your people because you're definitely not a millionaire. You are a regular schmegular. You've been working for UPS for 20-something years with like a perfect record, and you're super proud of that. Like you live comfortably but modestly in comparison. And you've got a strained relationship with your daughter. And for some reason, he thinks that on her wedding event weekend, he's going to be a priority for her. And that is interesting to me because you haven't been a priority for her at all. So why would you be now on like her biggest day of her, in theory, life? Okay? So we're unfolding the relationship dynamics. We are unfolding the weirdness that is that family. And then you don't really know the fiance, but there are rumors that a young girl went missing after messing with him. And they were seen talking. He alleges it's not true, and everybody there's this cloud around it. So you're trying to figure out who these people are, if this guy's a good guy, and what happened to that girl. You're also trying to figure out what type of person the daughter is, because the daughter still isn't really rocking with the dad. She's not giving a whole lot of away. Things just unfold, and they're not as they seem. Is she being taken advantage of? Is she the one taking advantage of them? What are the dynamics that brought this to be? You walk in on some encounters and you're just like, what WTF? What are you doing? What is happening? Having so many questions, thinking that he's there to actually parent, but it feels as though he hasn't been a parent for a very long time. I was engaged. This was definitely a good book. I could see the ending coming or the twist. I oddly am a little bit surprised at the ending as well, though. But it was also very satisfying. And there was that. The Last One at the Wedding. Got a 217. So it was definitely entertaining. It was engaging. I was at peak slump during this time. So even getting that high of a rating and keeping me engaged was great. I read a tasty little novella, Surrender to Me, by the Tasha Marie. Do you even need a synopsis? It's definitely more of an urban romance. A woman goes to kind of like on vacation at this kind of convention, is trying to sell her product to people with a lot of money. She doesn't fit a typical stereotype. Um, and so she's not getting a lot of traction in her business. This man comes up and is like, so here's my offer. Give yourself to me and I will fund whatever it is you need. Or you can go and play in these people's faces, or you can play on my face. These are your options. She assesses her options, and I think we all know which one she chose. And so we go on that ride. It was very enjoyable. It got a 218 from me. Short, quick, and dirty. See, now things are heating up. Now we're getting to the good stuff. We're getting to the good part of the month. We got a few more to go, and times were had. The next one is also going to be a mystery thriller, but it's YA, and so I'm really surprised that I was really feeling this one. And that's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This book was so much fun. It kept me going. The twist absolutely devastated me. Devastated me. So what's it about? It's about a young girl who goes missing. The boyfriend is suspected to be the person who has done whatever with her, has taken her, has killed her, whatever. Because at this point we don't know. There's not a body, girl. And you know when the sheriff gets locked in on one perp, that was the boyfriend. He is insistent he didn't do it, so he and a couple of friends take it upon themselves to try and find their friend. If we don't do it, nobody will. And time has gone on, probably more time than is good. 5+ days have already passed. And they start doing their little research thing, and they find out that she's been sighted in a nearby town, and they go and start asking questions and investigate. When I tell you, I was invested in finding this girl, and I loved how they did it. But you in the point of view of, the girl coming to, and she has amnesia and doesn't really know who she is. Police officer finds her. She woke up in a ditch, and she's got more like concussion feelings. And this man comes up and is like, "This is my daughter. Thank you so much for finding her. It's all these documents, etc., etc." Boom, bam, boom. Cop checks it out, releases the person into his custody, and they continue on. And then they jump to this boyfriend's perspective in his town, how he's being ostracized because they think that he's a kidnapper, killer, whatever have you, and that he has something to do with this girl's disappearance. And the back and forth dynamics of the girl and the interaction with trying to settle in, trying to remember who she is, where she is, and who she's with, and the odd things that start occurring, as well as the young boy trying to find his girlfriend who has been missing for several days now, even though they're up against a sheriff who just will not listen to them and is honestly hurting them desperately, desperately more than he is helping. I was 100% locked in on figuring out and saving this girl, and I was 1,000,000,000% invested, and I think that is how you know it's done right. The ending was wholly satisfying. In the same sense, it was also absolutely just devastating and heartbreaking. And why must we always kidnap young girls? I don't know, but this one was good. This one got a 224. It was really good. I definitely recommend. It was short, it was well paced, it was well written. You were invested immediately, and the end was heartbreaking. It was just so good. It was so good. Like, honestly, thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I should rate this higher because I just really enjoyed it. Going forward, I've got A Crown of Beasts by Allie Washington. This is, I believe, the first adult novel that Miss Allie Washington has written, and it is a kind of low fantasy, romantasy type of book, and it really surprised me. I'm not going to go too into it, as it was also in the vlog with Mile High. But please, I definitely recommend it. She scored really high, 233 for me. Just a couple of things that kept it from being, 250 and above to get all 5 of those stars. But it was really enjoyable. Essentially, it follows a young princess who has been betrothed to a prince and an elf, and then en route to her betrothed, she is kidnapped by another man who wants to take her as his wife as well, because marrying and mingling powers are how people get stronger The magic is stronger, the people live and prosper more. And it is kind of it reminded me so much of like Akatar, like a Tamlin Rhysand kind of, which land is actually for me, who am I actually meant to be with. And it was a fun time. Plus the cover, I mean, come on now, the cover, pick it up, I definitely recommend. And we're down to the final two. I don't know if you know, there's a big chunky book that I haven't talked about, and there's a tiny little book that I'm going to talk about. Do you know which one is coming in first for my highest rated? Well, the little tiny one is next. I read the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, the first volume. This is a quick little small book, but by Beth Brower. But I honestly had a time. It's the story of this young girl waiting to become to the age of maturity and inherit her life and be able to make decisions. She finds out that, honestly, I don't even know what I can tell that is a spoiler, but I had a very good time with this book, honestly. The banter was great. The structure of it was like her journal entries. So she'll be like, this day, blah, 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 blah. She'll tell you what happened. And then the next day and tell you what happened. And it was cute. It was enjoyable. I laughed a whole lot. Immediately wanted to pick up the next book to see what kind of shenanigans she was going to get into and how she was going to recover her situation. So that was a good time. It scored a whopping 245, and I'm here for it. The last book I have, which is definitely not the least book that I had, is The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo, I have been dabbling, reading. Everyone always gives this book so many flowers. They say it's long, but every single page was needed. They say it is the best revenge story that you have ever had. And I finished this book and I felt so conflicted. Which is why I've been kind of quiet about it. I still haven't unloaded all of my thoughts about this book, and I think I'm still going to have to stew on it and give it some time. If you do not already know, The Count of Monte Cristo is the ultimate, they say, revenge story. It follows a young man, Edmond Dantes, at the peak of getting everything he so deserved and worked so hard for. What does that mean? Marrying to the girl of his dreams, the love of his life, becoming a captain of his own ship, and really just, being able to provide stability for his aging father, only to have that ripped away because other people saw him winning and they wanted to take what was his, both the job opportunity as captain, because how dare this young man already surpass me? Why do people naturally just cling to him, follow him, believe in him? And that was apparent in a lot of the works, is that he was a natural born leader. He naturally inspired trust, devotion in him. Immediately, what was so exceptional about this book is the pacing for the first 400 pages. You immediately start in, they set you in, they give you who he is, what he's got going, and people are immediately starting to plotting immediately, and the actions start happening. They just start rolling. Next thing you know, he's picked up by the police. Next thing you know, he's in prison. Next thing you know, it's been 20 years. What? Heartbreaking. And so they take you in. Now he's in the prison. He meets the gentleman next door. He learns of a major treasure, and he plans his escape, and they are planning their escape. This is not spoilers because it's a revenge story. So once he then escapes is really where the book, I personally feel, just kind of, I think that this was longer than it needed to be. The first 400 pages, the pacing was pacing. The pages were turning. I needed to know what happened. And then things got a little bit muddled, and he would bring us back from some side quests that were really interesting. But in my opinion, I feel like 6 to 800 to even 900 was not really necessary, where you don't see the revenge plotting. Your real test is, who are these characters? Who are these game players? And then you get to watch their demise and suffering. And when you think about revenge, do you think the greatest revenge plot leaves with the person getting revenge feeling satisfied? In my head, those two were the same. When I think about the greatest revenge plot, is when the person who was wronged gets revenge and you feel satisfied and justified in the revenge you got. You sit in it, you savor it. And I was talking with a friend and I was like, what are some great revenge stories? And the first thing that came to mind was like The Italian Job with Marky Mark. I love me some Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Seth Green, Mos Def. Like that cast, Sexy Statham, that cast was 10 of 10. And the payoff at the end was 10 of 10. That to me is a successful revenge story. And you got to see the plotting. And I think that is what I missed, is he gave me names He gave me stories, he gave me background, he put me into where they are today and what they have to lose, absolutely. But I wanted to see him plot. I wanted to hear what he did, how he put things in, and how they came to be. And I did not get that to my satisfaction, and that is why honestly I got lost in the middle five. The middle 4 or 5 were just kind of like meh, but then it picked up at the end. Although the ending I think was different than most of the screen adaptations that they have for The Count of Monte Cristo. And I have to not lie, I was left very unsatisfied by the ending, but more so because of my own expectations. I expect a happy ending. I expect satisfaction in the pain that you took the time to inflict and the devastation that you took your time to inflict. And I don't think that I got that. And it was very conflicting for me because it was a very solid book. And I've said a whole lot. So the rating I gave this book was 263. So it did make it into a 5-star range. The ending did not feel redeemed. I do not feel like revenge was had to satisfaction. And that is the biggest bummer for me. And I'm still conflicted about it. I might have to piece together some different thoughts. I'm sure I will talk about this book, but I did accomplish it. I fought for my life to get it done. I wasn't going to go another month without finishing this book and really being able to say I completed The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This is the highest ranked book of the month, and I'm so proud that I accomplished it. I appreciate you if you made it this far. Please let me know what your top read was of May and maybe what your low read was of May, so I'll stay away from that. If you want to continue on my reading journey with me, please think about subscribing and do your best to keep your mind in the books and out of the gutter.